How in the hell does the myth of the gender pay gap persist? Honestly, this claim that women are paid less for equal work has been debunked more thoroughly than Ted Bundy's list of alibis. It has less credibility than a Bigfoot sighting at Comet Pizza. In legal terms, it is pure applesauce. But like an immortal game of whack-a-mole, it keeps re-emerging so we can all take out the hammer to smash it again. And what better time for the pay gap mole to re-emerge than the week of International Women's Day, with several news outlets reporting on a new study released by a consulting firm called Accenture outlining strategies to close the gender pay gap in the coming decades. Almost certainly you don't need me to debunk the gender pay gap again for you, but if you do, I'll link a couple videos in the description for you, one by Steven Crowder, one by Christina Hoff Sommers, both of which were created years ago. TLDR, that famous 77 or 78 cents for a woman on a man's dollar figure you often see, simply measures all earnings without controlling for anything else, without controlling for crucial factors like experience and hours worked, and yes, even occupation. That figure legitimately compares doctors to housekeepers and says the earnings difference is an injustice. But I do think an understated aspect of this debate, if it even counts as a debate, is the nature of inequality. Is inequality intrinsically a bad thing? The people who push this pay gap narrative seem to think so, but it isn't. Inequality, under the right circumstances, is a good thing. It's desirable. Because inequality is a necessary consequence of freedom. Let me explain what I mean. When I was in college, during my senior year, I was unsure about what I wanted to do after graduation. For a while, I thought I wanted to go to law school, so I took the LSAT, but ultimately I decided against going because I didn't score as well on the test as I hoped, and upon reflection, I realized I didn't want the debt and the stress of becoming a lawyer. Many of my friends did take that path, though. They did go to law school. They did take on that stress and that debt. They did become lawyers, and today they're earning healthy incomes. Should I complain that they make more money than I do? Should I call that unjust? Should I call that discrimination or oppression? No. They chose the path of stress and money, and I chose this path with the benefit of less stress at a cost of less money. And the financial inequality between us is a necessary consequence of our individual choices, a necessary product of our freedom to choose. So inequality isn't necessarily bad. Whether inequality is good or bad depends on the cause of the difference. If the difference is due to discrimination or oppression, if the difference is due to the denial of freedom, sure, that's probably a bad thing. But if the difference is due to free choice, that difference is simply the consequence of people making what they believe to be the best decisions for their own lives. And we have every reason to suppose any observed difference in the so-called gender pay gap is a product of free choice, not discrimination. Empirically, if we control for the same job, the pay gap all but disappears. Only a small difference remains, easily explained by the lifestyle choices and family responsibilities women tend to choose, namely motherhood. Legally, there has been a federal law requiring the equal pay of men and women for equal work since 1963, meaning if employers are getting away with paying women less for the same work on a grand scale, they're doing a hell of a good job cooking their books and fooling everyone to avoid the lawsuits. Logically, if employers could get away with paying women less for the same work, why would they ever hire men? I'm supposed to believe there are that many businesses out there who hate women more than they like money? No matter how you look at it, any pay gap that exists between men and women is, in the grand scheme, almost certainly the same as the pay gap that exists between my lawyer friends and I. A pay gap that is the product of free choice, and therefore a pay gap that isn't a problem at all. Or is it? This is where the philosophical aspect of this issue gets really interesting. This new report in the news seems to grant observed pay differences between men and women are the product of individual choices, not discrimination. At least I'm inferring that based on their diagnosis of the problem and the recommendations they make to solve it. The problem, as they describe it, is not those damn men are misogynists. It's not the patriarchy is so oppressive. The causal factor this report identifies is this. The choices that young women undergrads are making now are setting them up to enter the workforce with fewer digital skills, less mentoring advice, and lower interest in pursuing high-paying jobs compared with their male peers. And accordingly, their solutions to this alleged problem are that women should increase their digital fluency, they should be aspirational and proactive in setting career goals and strategy, and they should immerse themselves in tech and ideally pursue a degree in a STEM field, as in science, technology, engineering, or math. So the problem is women are making poor choices, and the solution is they should make the choices this consulting firm says are better. Choices simply to pursue artificial earnings equality. But should any person, man or woman, do the things this report recommends for equality? Or should he or she do these things out of his or her own free choice? Here's the same reasoning applied to me. Hey Matt, did you get that law school application done? Nah, I didn't do as well on the LSAT as I'd hoped, and after I sat down and thought about it, I really don't think I want that debt and that stress. But Matt, your peers are going to law school, and so you must also go to law school. But I don't think I want to. I'd rather... No, Matt. It's not about what you want. It's about equality. If you don't do what we're telling you to do, you'll be oppressed. No, the only equality that matters is equality in opportunity. The equality to choose, not equality in outcome. Not every occupational field has to be, or even should be, 50% men and 50% women. It should just be people who have all made the free individual choice to pursue that life and to provide that labor. My friends made the choice to become lawyers, and I made the choice to do this, whatever the hell this is, and nobody forced either of us to do these things, and so there is no problem in the unequal outcome that results. The pay gap is only a problem if it is the result of a denial of freedom. If you grant that the pay gap is a product of women's choices, a product of women's freedom, and you still see a problem, as this report does, the only conclusion you can reach is women are not choosing correctly. Women aren't choosing good enough. Women can't choose for themselves. And at that point, as it often does, the horseshoe comes all the way around. And it's prudent to ask, who's the real sexist? Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.